Welcome to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI, your home for the politically homeless, streaming live at KVI.com and the KVI app. If you want to be part of the most dangerous show on the airwaves, call or text the Warrior Injury Law Studio line at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. Coming up this hour, we had one sunny weekend. One. And the nude beach is a problem yet again. But before we get to any of that, time for your daily dose of adrenaline.
You want me to stick this into my heart? Are you f***ing nuts?
Remember when people were saying, hey, you know, this is a false flag operation, all these white supremacist groups. They're being paid by the Democrats to show up at events. Turns out they were 100% right. The Department of Justice yesterday announced 6 charges against the Southern Poverty Law Center for 6 counts of wire fraud, 4 counts of bank fraud, and 1 count of money laundering. The group is also found to be funding white supremacist group like the KKK. I remember that when these groups are out there, they're always saying, oh, we have to worry about white supremacists. We have to worry about white supremacists. And I would always say, where are there white supremacists? Show me the white supremacists. I know there's a few like hiding out in Idaho in the South, but aside from that, where are the white supremacists? No, really, where are they? They made it sound like there's white supremacists in every corner, under every bedsheet, in every closet. Well, it turns out when they didn't actually have the white supremacists, they paid them to be white supremacists. This is a bombshell indictment. Acting Attorney General Todd Blanche said, according to the charges in the indictment, the Southern Poverty Law Center is a nonprofit entity that purports to fight white supremacy and racial hatred by reporting on extremist groups and conducting research to inform law enforcement groups with the goal of dismantling these groups. But as the indictment describes, the SPLC was not dismantling these groups. It was instead manufacturing the extremism it purports to oppose by paying sources to stoke racial hatred. The indictment describes the conduct in detail, but one troubling example is that the SPLC was paying a member of the leadership group that planned, wait for it, the Unite the Right protest in Charlottesville, Virginia in 2017. That resulted in the death of one person and injured dozens more. They gave the National Alliance affiliate $1 million. Aryan Nation's affiliate, $300,000. The Unite the Right member, $270,000. Former National Alliance chairman, $140,000. Former KKK members, over $73,000. American Front president and felon, over $19,000. In total, they spent over $3 million on white supremacists and racist groups. So think about this for a second. The Democrats do fundraisers for the Southern Poverty Law Center all the time to stop white supremacy. And they were actually funding white supremacy. I kid you not. This is what they were doing. You remember they labeled parents extremists for objecting to radical, hypersexualized indoctrination curriculum? You remember they labeled Christians all Christian nationalists. They're all a bunch of white supremacist extremists. Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? This is what they were actually funding. Completely bonkers crazy. Earlier on Tuesday, the SPLC said it was under investigation by the DOJ. Although we don't know all the details, the focus appears to be on SPLC's prior use of paid confidential informants to gather credible intelligence on extremely violent groups. Time out. Pause. Are you the FBI? Is that your job? Do you get to pay people to do that kind of stuff? It's still illegal. Okay, let's do this for a second. Let's turn this around for a minute. Let's say I wanted to expose all the pro-Hamas groups here, right? Let's say I want to do that. And a bunch of them, as we've documented many, many times, have actual ties to terrorists, okay? So let's say me, Ari Hoffman, made friends with one of them and said, hey, dude, I'll pay you to keep giving me sources and material on these guys. And the dude goes, sure, for sure. And then I started doing a fundraiser on KVI. Hey, I need money because we're fighting terrorism. And people gave me a lot of money because we're fighting terrorism. And then I was paying the people affiliated with the terrorist organization to give me info, but they have to do all the things as part of a terrorist organization to keep doing that. That means I would have materially given support to terrorism. That means the KVI money would have materially given support to terrorism. I don't do any of that. I'm a lot smarter. I don't have to spend the money. I have Google. So what's funny to me is that these guys think they're the FBI. If you have a real problem and you have a really close working development partnership with the Biden administration and with the Department of Justice, why just tell them who to go after? In some cases, they did. Why don't you have the FBI deal with paid informants? It is not the Southern Poverty Law Center's job to get paid informants. But what's worse than that is some of these guys were pretty horrible, and they were paying them to continue being members of all these different hate groups, but claiming you're fighting against oppression. You were funding the KKK. You were funding the KKK and other groups like it. The indictment for the charges against the SPLC were returned on Tuesday from a grand jury in U.S. District Court in the Middle District of Alabama. When asked by reporters if the SPLC ever told law enforcement they were paying off people linked to the KKK and other neo-Nazi groups, Blanche said, "It is my understanding that the SPLC never told anybody in law enforcement they were paying off the Ku Klux Klan." So you're meeting with the Biden administration regularly. You're meeting with the Department of Justice regularly. And you don't think to mention, hey, we have paid informants, maybe because you knew what you were doing was illegal. What's worse is some of their paid informants were put up on their website as, this is the guy we're fighting against. You need to fundraise for us. You need to give us money so we can fight against that guy who we're paying. The individual who was part of the leadership for the Unite the Right rally in 2017 was a member of the online leadership chat group that planned the rally, attended the event at the direction of the SPLC. This individual also made racist postings under the supervision of the SPLC. What, are you standing over their shoulder? No. Put the comma there. Use an M dash instead of a comma right there. And help coordinate transportation to the event for several of the attendees. You sent people to Charlottesville. You sent people to the riot where people got killed. You helped get them there. The tax dollars helped get them there. One section of the indictment also alleged that the field sources, known as F unknown in the document, was the Imperial Wizard of the United Clans of America. Is Imperial Wizard higher than Grand Dragon? One of the other ones was the Cyclops? Something Cyclops? They have weird names for these things over there. Another source was an officer of the National Socialist Movement and the Aryan Nations affiliated Sadistic Souls Motorcycle Club. Wow. Well done, guys. Additionally, the SPLC had paid the reported national president of the American Front, who was also a convicted felon, for his participation in a cross burning. Wow, you guys really picked the best ones. Now, let's not forget, the Southern Poverty Law Center puts anybody they disagree with politically on a hate map. They put Turning Point USA on there. They put Charlie Kirk on there. They put Prager University on there. They also put groups like Gays Against Groomers on there. This is their hate map. So you're paying the white supremacists. Just make sure I got this right. You're paying members of the Ku Klux Klan, but you're labeling everybody on the right who's just a conservative podcaster or a youth group or trying to educate people about America. You're labeling them hate groups and white supremacists. Are you kidding me? This is so much worse. Fox News had a breakdown of where all the money's going.
Southern Poverty Law Center is now accused of funneling more than $3 million to extremist groups and white supremacists. Take a look at this. From 2014 to 2024, the Southern Poverty Law Center allegedly funneled more than $3 million. To who? Let's talk about it. First of all, the accusations, according to DOJ, is that they funneled over $1 million to the National Alliance affiliate. You may not know who they are. I did not know who they are. Who is the National Alliance and who is one of their affiliates? Well, it's formerly one of the largest neo-Nazi organizations in the United States. It's interesting, though. At its peak, it had around 1,500 members. But its main leader died in 2002, and then the group splinters. And ultimately, it lost most of its members. It's anticipated that by the mid-2010s, they were down to a few dozen members left. A few dozen members at the same time, the SPLC is funneling them $1 million. How about a $300,000 funding to the Aryan Nations affiliate? Here's what's fascinating about the Aryan Nations affiliate. The story is very similar to the National Alliance affiliate. It declined seriously in the early 2000s. But interesting note, in September of 2000, the Southern Poverty Law Center won a $6 million judgment against the Aryan Nations. So now, a decade later, they're back funding to the tune of $300,000 the Aryan Nation. Now, they also sent something like $73,000 to former KKK members and just under $300,000 to a Unite the Right member who is accused of helping to plan the Charlottesville protest. Stunning funding of groups here. And here's the chart.
Now, here's something else about that. Wasn't Charlottesville the reason why Joe Biden ran for office? I mean, he had 30,000 reasons why he claims he ran for office, but that's the reason I ran Charlottesville. Yeah, that's why. Remember that? Well, apparently it was paid for by one of his big donors, George Clooney. Yeah. The Biden administration had a very close working relationship with the Southern Poverty Law Center. According to the Post Millennial, in January of 2023, as the Biden administration continued to declare that white supremacy and right-wing extremism were the biggest threats facing America, the SPLC's director of their intelligence project, Susan Cork, met with the White House's National Security Council counterterrorism director, John Piccarelli. It was shortly thereafter that the SPLC added Moms for Liberty, Parents Defending Education, and other parent groups to their hate map. Do you remember that Jill Biden and her teacher union buddies were the ones who were going after Moms for Liberty and all these other parents groups because the parents groups were coming out in opposition to the insane curriculum that was being pushed? Jill Biden was running the White House. We know this, right? She's the Edith Wilson of our time, without the higher body count. I mean, don't get me wrong, Jill Biden's got a pretty high body count, but nothing compared to Edith Wilson. It turns out that the SPLC met with both Biden and his White House officials 11 times just in 2023, which was just 2 years into his term. The Biden administration brought the SPLC in to serve on their anti-Semitism coalition, and they're funding white supremacist groups. Are you kidding me with this? Would you like to know which companies donated to the SPLC? Because there's a really great breakdown of who some of these companies were. I mean, don't forget, the ADL was maybe working with this kind of stuff too. But they're doing this. JP Morgan Chase also announced a $1 million pledge in 2017, which was split between the SPLC and the Anti-Defamation League. Google provided roughly $250,000 in grants to the SPLC. Another account, Insurrection Barbie, highlighted a surge in donations following the Charlottesville rally, listing major contributions from the Clooneys, outgoing Apple CEO Tim Cook, and JP Morgan Chase. Fascinating that this thing came out yesterday. It's the same day that Tim Cook calls it a career. One account said they went from $65 million in donations to $130 million in donations after Charlottesville. So they realized if we can keep manufacturing these white supremacist groups and these white supremacist threats, then guess what, my friends? We'll have the money train a-coming. The cash cow has come in. So George and Amal Clooney donated $1 million to the SPLC after the Charlottesville Unite the Right rally in 2017, which was, it turns out, funded in part by the SPLC, and they even claimed they were seeking donations to fight against it. It turns out they were trying to make it worse the whole time. Caroline Leavitt had some really strong words for the left and the SPLC at the White House this morning.
Yeah, I saw the indictment yesterday. I saw the acting attorney general and FBI director do a press conference on it. It was quite shocking to me to learn of the egregious violations of the law of the Southern Poverty Law Center was committing. And I think that's a story that should be on the front page of every newspaper in this country because they've obviously been duping their supporters and the American taxpayers for far too long. It's a criminal organization, clearly, and that's not our DOJ saying that or Todd Blanche saying that. That's a grand jury indictment saying that.
Now, here's the worst part about this, is apparently the Biden administration had an investigation into the Southern Poverty Law Center and then closed it without any explanation. Oh, you found something that maybe would have gone after your donors and your backers and all your supporters and your activist organizations? They were investigating them, and then they dropped the investigation. Meanwhile, SPLC realized they could benefit off the grift. The amount of money they brought in before Charlottesville, $51,871,438. After Charlottesville, $133,463,398. That is an increase of $81,591,960. You remember during all the Gaza encampments all over the college campuses, multiple groups like the Tides Foundation, the Soros Foundation, Rockefeller Foundation were all giving mega bucks to that? They were just following the same model. Let's have the Southern Poverty Law Center claim there's a big threat from white supremacists. Then we're going to pay people to be white supremacists. Then we're going to fundraise off the threat from the white supremacists. That's exactly what it was, which is crazy. Crazy. This is, how many other organizations do we not know about that were doing the exact same thing? Hey, where's all the lefty media covering this, by the way? Where's like MS Now, M Snow, CNN, NPR, any of these guys? How come they're not covering it? What organizations do you guys think were also involved in this? Because this is now something that I think we should actually do RICO charges on. I think if there's a way to do RICO charges, we should completely do it. You're talking about going across state lines. You're talking about using federal resources. You're talking about conspiracies to cover all this up. I think this should 100% be a RICO case. Absolutely. Richard says the first rule of any industrial complex is to never solve the problem you were chartered to solve. Yeah, just like Homeless Inc. Here, these guys are supposed to be solving white supremacy, but guess what? Race relations, up until recently, thanks to BLM and crew, were actually doing a lot better. I was having this discussion with some people out in the newsroom the other day. Think about the late 90s for a second here. The TV dads. You had Family Matters. You had Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. These were all the top shows. These were the top shows. The family dads were all black. They all were. Michael Jackson was one of the king of the charts. Hip-hop, R&B, that's what everybody was buying. And it didn't matter if you were black, white, brown, didn't matter. Organizations like the Southern Poverty Law Center, Black Lives Matter, all these lefty organizations did everything they could to destroy race relations because the problem was basically solved. I'm not going to say there isn't racism. I'm not going to say there wasn't racism. But it wasn't the huge problem it has become because these organizations are doing everything they can to manufacture it. Things were so much better then because everybody kind of moved past it and just said, you're an American, I'm American. You're a dude, I'm a dude, whatever the case may be. And then organizations like the Southern Poverty Law Center said, wait, we staked our claim on all this racist stuff. Well, guess what? Now it's gone. Now we have to manufacture it. You guys couldn't have said, hey, terrorism's a problem? You guys couldn't have looked at that instead? No. You guys had to continue manufacturing it and continue dividing Americans. I hope every single person affiliated of this spends the rest of their lives in jail. And I hope that they die penniless there. Because what you guys did is so much worse than you know. It wasn't just that you took a whole bunch of money from people and spent it on white supremacy. It's that you convinced them that there was white supremacy and everything was a threat to them. You know how many times I get called a white supremacist? You know how many times I've had to deal with death threats because I'm a white supremacist? You know how many people have actually taken matters into their own hands to go attack people in the conservative world because we're all a bunch of white supremacists? That was the marketing done by organizations like the Southern Poverty Law Center. They actually have blood on their hands for ginning all this up. It's completely crazy, and I hope they are fully held accountable. Speaking of people being held accountable, we have one sunny weekend. One. And all of a sudden, we're having problems with our local nude beach again. We'll tell you all the disgusting craziness when we come back. You're listening to The Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI. So first, before we get too deep into the story about the weird beach in Seattle, a little programming announcement for everybody. Tomorrow, we will not be in studio. We will be broadcasting live at our usual time from a random location in the Seattle area. We are going to do a pop-up broadcast in the Seattle area. It's going to be a surprise to call out the Democrats' failed policies. You can send me your guesses. I will not confirm them, but I will read the fun guesses on air. You can send them to me or call me with them at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. But yes, we will be doing a pop-up broadcast, old school radio fun. We'll still have the same show we always do from 3 to 6 p.m. right here on Talk Radio 570 KVI, but we will be out in the field, out in the wilderness. There might be homeless people. There might be drug addicts. Who knows? We don't even know what'll be there. But we will be out in the fun. So make sure you are listening tomorrow from 3 to 6 p.m. so you can find out exactly where we will be tomorrow. Okay. Last year, there was this crazy story, which was there was some turmoil over a nude beach in Seattle. So this is Denny Blaine Park, which is an unofficial nude beach. Just all the naked people like to hang out there. Now, this has been an issue for years, and neighbors were kind of tired of it. So they tried something a few years ago where they said, all right, we're going to put it in a playground because you can't have this kind of stuff near a playground. But then the LGBTQIA community said, that is our historic land. Our ancient LGBTQ plus minus sign, fathers, sisters, brothers, however they identify, that was their naked beach, and you can't do this, and they shut down the playground. So, no more playground. Well, then, things started getting worse. They started having more crime and complaints, and it got worse and worse until a neighborhood group decided to file a lawsuit against the city for how bad this park had gotten. So then this thing gets kicked off into overdrive because our friend Jonathan Cho goes out there and goes, gee, I wonder how bad this actually is. The pictures he took of what was going on there are burned into my memory, and I wish I could get rid of them. Absolutely wish I could get rid of them. But unfortunately, I can't. They're there. So the police eventually start showing up, and then they have this brilliant idea. This was my favorite part. They put in a fence with a wrap on the fence, this cloth wrap thing, so you're not supposed to see the naked people. But they did it in one of the dumbest ways possible. You would say to yourself, okay, we'll split the beach. Naked people go there, non-naked people go there. We both have access to the water. That's not what they did. What they did instead was they split it, pardon the pun, top and bottom, where they said the bottom part that's closer to the water itself, that's at the water, naked people get that. Everybody else, you guys only get the top part. And then people start tearing down the fence. It was a whole to-do. Well, now, according to Como News, a group representing users of Seattle's Denny Blaine Park has asked a King County judge to clarify that topless sunbathing is allowed under a court-ordered plan aimed at curbing illegal activity at the historically LGBTQ okay. Historically. How old is Seattle? What are we looking at? A couple hundred years max? When did this become a thing? Let's say being generous. The 1960s. Maybe? I assume it's been shorter amount of time than that. Let's generously say it was the 1960s. My guess it was probably like the 90s, early 2000s, right? But it's a historically LGBTQ-friendly beach? In a motion filed April 20th, Friends of Denny Blaine argued the city's clothing required rule for parts of the park was never intended to ban toplessness and is being misapplied by private security patrols hired by nearby homeowners. So what you're saying is the police couldn't get the job done. The fencing couldn't get the job done. And eventually, people just started hiring their own private security, and now the private security is basically the modesty police. Basically like, lady, put those away. Dude, you're not a lady. Put those away. Whatever's going on down there. The filing comes amid an ongoing legal dispute over conditions at the Lake Washington Park, where a judge last year found evidence of public nuisance tied to lewd conduct, drug use, and other illegal activity. The court ordered Seattle to implement an abatement plan rather than close the park outright, dividing it into clothing optional and clothing required zones. None of this worked out. Why anybody thinks that government is the solution is beyond me. My friends, in the great words, government isn't the solution for problems. Government is the problems. Speaking of governmental problems, by the way, there is nothing that government officials on the Democrat side of the aisle love doing more than spending money on stupid. RFK Jr. showed up to testify at the Capitol today, and he brought the receipts with him. We'll have that awesome audio for you when we come back. You're listening to The Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI. I love the suggestions, or I guess guesses would be a better word for where we're going to be tomorrow. I'm not going to say yes or no, but there's a whole bunch of good ones here, really good ones. 3rd and Pine in downtown Seattle. Seattle Central Community College. Why are we going to Seattle Central Community College? Is something going on over there I don't know about? I don't know anything about going on over there. Are you going to build your own pallet house on the sidewalk like Dory did? I like that. I remember when that happened. I miss Dory. Oh, the South Precinct Jail. Will you be remote in Chinatown to interview local merchants being displaced by Katie Wilson's homeless friends? You have to keep guessing, my friends. You have to keep guessing. You have to get more creative than that. You will find out soon enough. Don't forget to be listening from 3 to 6 p.m. right here on Talk Radio 570 KVI tomorrow. Well, fresh off her trip to Cuba, our representative, Pramila Jayapal, the Democrat from Gaza, decided that she was going to lecture Congress today about how wonderful things are in Cuba.
I worked on global health for 10 years before coming to Congress, so it's an area that I'm very interested in. Cuba has a remarkable public health system, lowest infant mortality, maternal mortality, sort of the opposite of what the United States has.
Where do you get this nonsense from? A whole bunch of people died in their hospitals a couple weeks ago because they didn't have the money to have power. They didn't have power. They diverted the power for a rock concert. You want to tell me what a great healthcare system they have? I'll tell you what, lady. People who think you have a great healthcare system don't flee your country in 57 Chevys that they turned into boats, old buses that they've turned into boats, pallets, like what Dory built the house out of to just float through shark-infested waters to come to the United States of America. Unbelievable. The nonsense these guys spew out, it never ends. Well, now RFK Jr. was on Capitol Hill testifying today about all the fraud that they have found. This one was mind-boggling.
So now you've got all of these problems, and I'll give you one example. Hospices in Los Angeles. We've shut down 500 of them. We have not gotten one call from a congressperson or one call from a patient. Why? Because those hospices did not exist.
Right.
They were signing up patients. They were getting patient IDs, signing them up, and charging us $6,000 a month for that patient. How did we detect them all? Because the patients never died.
That's a great point, by the way. Not just that the patients never died, but if you close a whole bunch of these daycares in Minnesota, shouldn't people be out there protesting? Look what happened last year with Seattle Public Schools, 2 years ago. When Seattle Public Schools said they were going to start closing schools and merging schools together because they didn't have enough students, what happened? Parents immediately went bonkers, absolutely bonkers crazy. They went nuts. And instead of actually closing those schools, what happened? Seattle Public Schools went to the legislature and said, hey, can you give us money for this? And the legislature said, sure, we don't have it, but we'll give it to you anyway. We like spending money. And that's what happened. Where are all the people protesting? Where are all the people saying, don't close our daycares, don't close our hospices? My relative is there. It doesn't exist. California hospice leader Sheila Clark said that Gavin Newsom has some interesting locations for some of these hospices, by the way.
You'd be amazed at how many hospices the door you can walk up to in California, and there is nobody there. There is 5 months worth of mail that you can see stacked up from CMS, and nobody's there. And that passed a survey. How did that happen? How do you put a hospice in a burrito stand in California? How do you put a hospice in a tire store in California? That all had to be vetted through licensure and through certification and accreditation.
In a burrito stand? They had hospices that's a way to go, I'll say. You know, you just get fed burritos till you go. That's not bad. I mean, I'm cool with it. You get some meat in that burrito. I like a burrito. I like a burrito better than a taco, me personally.
You'd have a hard time finding that kosher burrito
yes.
hospice care facility.
Oh, I agree. It'd be very difficult to find the one for the Jews. It'd be hard for that. But hey, feed your burritos till you die. I got no problem with that. As long as maybe I could get some fries along the way or something else, maybe a little change of pace.
Fries
every
with
day.
you and fries, man.
I love fries. I
know
love French fries.
You're always saying something like, "Let's get a pizza and fries."
Okay,
and now it's a burrito and fries.
I want fries with everything. Okay, so this is something that you only get at kosher pizza places, and this is really odd. I was trying to explain this to you guys a while ago. Kosher pizza places, you walk in, and there's mozzarella sticks, and there's all this other stuff, right? There's also French fries. And when I mention this to my non-Jewish friends, they go, "Why are there French fries at your pizza places?"
It doesn't really surprise me. I understand like apps or a place that offers more than just pizza offering, but like it's just not a thing to order. Like, I'm going to order a pizza and some fries.
That's all we do, man. That is all we do. That is when we had the pizza place here. It was always, I will take my large cheese
I
pizza.
remember.
Yeah, I got it here.
You'd bring it over and you were like, you want to get some fries? I'm going to get some fries too. And we're like,
Yeah, why do
I
you want
guess.
fries with that? No, you know the worst thing about kosher pizza places? I told you this before. You guys have gas station sushi. That's the joke, right? I don't know if there's any place that actually has gas station sushi.
Not really.
Not really. We have pizza store sushi. And when you walk in and you see that man making sushi in that pizza joint, you go, I am not touching that. But some people still do. I mean, they must eat it enough so that the guy's still there. We didn't have it here. But in New York, I don't know why people think pizza goes with sushi. This isn't even a religious thing. This is just a goofy thing where somebody said, hey, we can make some money off this. Yeah, nuts. Speaking of making money, Senator Warnock was all mad that RFK Jr. made cuts to the rabies office. Rabies. It's a big problem. Lots of people die from rabies, right? Wrong.
Gutting the very offices that keep American families safe from disturbing and deadly infectious diseases.
Senator,
Sir, hold on, sir.
Senator, there's 1 to 3 rabies cases a year in the United States. I think one person manning that office full time probably can handle that traffic.
Here.
One person. There's 1 to 3 rabies cases a year in the U.S.
Thanks to vaccines.
Oh, there you went with that one. That's what it was. Yeah. I remember I'm walking home one day, and there was this lady who always leaned on her fence in my neighborhood. It was right next to the synagogue. So you walk past her when you're leaving, and she says, hey, Ari, can I ask you a question? And I go, yeah, what's up? And she goes, my son got bit by something in the garage that was all furry and whatever. What do you think I should do? I said, I think you should go to the hospital right now. Really? You think I should do that? Yes. I think you should call 911 right now. Why are you asking me?
Just wait until he starts foaming at the mouth and then deal with it.
No, then he's just a zombie, right? That's what it is. Not actually rabies, just zombie. When we come back, my friends, go woke, lose 12 games in a row. People are calling out the New York Mets and hoping Zoran Mamdani can hug other teams' mascots so they go on big losing streaks. We'll tell you what's up when we come back. You're listening to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI. Go woke, lose 12 games in a row. That's the New York Mets. It's not just that their mascot hugs Zoran Mamdani. It's so much worse than that. Last night, the New York Mets fell to the Minnesota Twins 5-3 after blowing a 3-run lead. And at this point, I kind of want them to lose every game the rest of the season. I want them to beat that 1962 record of the worst amount of losses ever in baseball.
I told you yesterday I'm with you. And I also told you yesterday that none of our listeners care about them or give a crap about the Mets. And I just had a caller call in just now going, that's not true. I care about them.
Okay.
And
well, here's the thing.
Well,
I think I'm about to make this more fun for them because there's a little political intrigue here. It's not just that Zoran Mamdani hugged the mascot of the Mets. It's so much worse than that. So last year, the Mets have the best record in baseball heading into Pride weekend at Shea Stadium, at Citi Field. What happens on June 13th? They have a Pride event, and the Pride flag is up at Citi Field. The national anthem comes on, and as opposed to showing the American flag on the big Jumbotron waving in the wind, what happens? They show the Pride flag. What happens after that? The Mets go on a spectacular losing streak, and they have the best record of baseball, and then they don't make the playoffs. Okay. All right. You may say, Ari, that's a coincidence. Okay. We got this one also, and this is where it gets more fun, a little bit more exciting. New York sports radio host Mike Francesca claimed that the Mets traded outfielder Brandon Nimmo to the Texas Rangers after he was spotted with Ivanka Trump and her family at a Mets game. Francesca said on his show the friction between Nimmo and the shortstop Francisco Lindor stemmed from one side liking Trump and the other side not liking Trump. By the way, Brandon Nimmo hitting 346 right now. I know it's April, but he's doing pretty well, but they got rid of him. All right. Lindor's wife, Katia Reguero Lindor, then joined Zoran Mamdani's inaugural committee after the socialist was elected to office. Do you see this all stacking up more and more? So now we're getting a little bit more political here. This just keeps getting worse and worse. Oh, and then did I mention when Charlie Kirk was assassinated, the Mets were playing the Chicago Cubs. And the Cubs' second baseman, Matt Shaw, went to the funeral and took off the game. The Mets announcers bashed him for taking off the game to go to a funeral. Okay, it's starting to stack up a little bit here. I know how to fix this. The Yankees have been on a tear since last year, since September, actually. I know it's not the same season, but they've been doing pretty well. What happens? They missed the World Series, though. What happens? You've got Donald Trump taking a picture with all the Yankees, and then their record goes through the roof. So what do you think? Is this how we fix the Mets problem? Is this how we fix the Mariners problem? We just bring Donald Trump in. Just have him take a picture with it. It'll be perfectly good, right? That's what we should do? Yeah. Now, mind you, speaking of taking pictures.
These man children need to practice harder, get their minds right,
and play baseball.
Play a child's game for millions and millions and millions of dollars.
Yes, exactly right. Exactly right. So a lot of you have questions about where we're going for our pop-up event tomorrow. All right, who are we taking pictures with? We're not going to the White House. We're not taking pictures with President Trump. This one here, Jeff in Kent says, are you broadcasting from the Interbay Tiny House Village with co-host Andrea Suarez? That's a good one. I like that suggestion. This one here, they were calling us out for doing a story for advertising the pop-up broadcast and then doing a story advertising the nude beach, talking about the nude beach. And I'm like, no, we are not broadcasting. It's cold out there this time of year, man. That one was pretty good from Randy. I like that one. A lot of people are wondering if we're going downtown, if we're going to 12th and Jackson, if we're going to 3rd and Pine. Oh, this one here. Jeff and Kent says, are you broadcasting from the jungle? Yeah, let's go deep in the jungle and just broadcast in there, and then we'll build our little ramshackle hut. Yeah, going to be a lot of fun. Vindicated here from Craig and Puyallup. I like the Mets. As a Mariners fan, they always made me feel good that there was someone out there who sucks less. Thanks so much, Craig. Really appreciate that. When we come back, my friends, there is a ton of crime, including Hondurans smuggling drugs in cereal boxes in Seattle. But meanwhile, Katie Wilson just wants to talk about bus lanes. We'll give you all details when we come back. You're listening to The Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI. Welcome to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI, your home for the politically homeless, streaming live at KVI.com and the KVI app. If you want to be part of the most dangerous show on the airwaves, give us a call or a text on the Warrior Injury Law Studio line at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. Coming up this hour, there's a drag summer camp at the Mopop, but yet I'm not as upset about it as some of you think I am. I'll tell you why. But before we get to any of that, could you use some extra cash? Of course. Who couldn't? Turd Ferguson trying to take all your money. Democrats trying to take all your money. Gas prices through the roof. Of course, some extra cash would be great. Well, good news, my friends. We got your chance to win some money right now. That's right, my friends. Today, we are giving away $2,000 of cold, hard cash. And now, thanks to our in-house Pink Floyd cover band to set the right music for us, now is your chance to win. I'm going to give you a word, and you're going to text that word to the number I give you. Do not text me any other information. Do not text me your name, your phone number, anything. If you win, we will find you. Just text us the word itself. Today's word is special, as in I am so special, as in you are so special, as in we are all so special. Text the word special to SPECIAL. Text the word special to 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. Get the special spelling right there, my friends. SPECIAL. Switching gears over to things that are happening here. A lot of you were texting in about where we might be going tomorrow for our pop-up event. And I made the mistake of reading the text about the nude beach because now everybody says, oh, maybe that's not such a bad idea. I'm telling you, it's a bad idea. 360, pop-up video from the nudie beach might be interesting. No, we're not going there. Absolutely not. We are not going there. Mike in Lake Stevens says you are going to Havana, Cuba to broadcast tomorrow. No, my friends, we are not doing that either. Not at all. But that's what they seem to think is going on. But that is not what is happening. Not what is happening at all. Sorry, guys. Sorry to disappoint you. That is not where we are going. There is a place that we are going tomorrow. We'll be broadcasting from 6 to 9. From 6 to 9. I almost said 6 to 9 a.m. From 3 to 6 p.m., as always, right here on Talk Radio 570 KVI, from a special undisclosed location until tomorrow, so you'll have to tune in tomorrow to find out exactly where we are. This story here from right here in our very own Seattle, Honduran national has been sentenced to more than 4 years in federal prison for his role in a large drug trafficking case for illegally returning to the United States after being removed. Okay, it's drug trafficking. This is Seattle. This kind of stuff happens all the time. Well, Jorge Aguilar Martinez was sentenced Tuesday in U.S. District Court in Seattle to 54 months in prison, according to an announcement from First Assistant U.S. Attorney Charles Neal Floyd. He was arrested in October of 2025. At sentencing hearing, U.S. District Judge James L. Robart said Aguilar Martinez was motivated by profit despite the harm caused by fentanyl in the community. Fentanyl pills have proven to be lethal, he said. It's very easy to get fentanyl pill that contains a deadly dose. Now, this gets a little bit more fun. How was he smuggling the drugs in our area? According to court records, Aguilar Martinez helped connect a customer who was working with law enforcement to suppliers claiming they could provide large quantities of methamphetamine and fentanyl pills. Okay, interesting. After the deal was arranged, Aguilar Martinez and two co-conspirators were arrested with about 28 pounds of methamphetamine and more than 10,000 fentanyl pills. A lot of it was concealed in cereal boxes. So is this like the scene in Toy Soldiers where Sean Austin is selling everybody alcohol, but they're doing it in the mouthwash bottles? Is that what it is? We're hiding it in the cereal now? Good thing it wasn't Count Chocula. Then you might think that was marshmallows or something. After the deal was arranged, Aguilar Martinez and his two co-conspirators were arrested with all this stuff on them. Prosecutors asked for a 5-year sentence, writing in court filings that the drug crisis remains a major challenge locally and nationwide. They said Aguilar Martinez's actions demonstrate a callous disregard for the well-being or safety of others, noting that while he had no prior drug convictions, he has been arrested multiple times for drug trafficking related to his behavior. Robart also noted that Aguilar Martinez returned to the United States shortly after being removed in 2024, which the judge said showed a lack of respect for the law. Well, he's a drug dealer. I don't really think he cares about that. But what you're saying is he was actually removed during the Biden administration? I think that's the most shocking thing about this entire story. He's expected to be removed from the United States following his prison term. The judge ordered that he serve 4 years of supervised release if he returns to the country again. Why don't we just boot him out again? The amount of you over on the text line who have guessed where we are broadcasting from, most of the suggestions are about drugs. Are you going to 3rd and Pine? Are you going to 12th and Jackson? Oh, here's a good one here. Broadcasting where the undelivered ballots were found in Renton. Actually, Jim Walsh is going to be joining us at 4:30 today to talk about those undelivered ballots. This was another suggestion somebody said. How about the McDonald's downtown? Yeah, McStabby's. So Seattle police, according to Como News, have arrested a 29-year-old man accused of taking part in an unprovoked assault that left a 77-year-old man with a head injury and a possible broken arm in downtown Seattle. Katie Wilson, this is your city. Well, you know, it'd be really nice if we had the cameras to prove all this, right? Didn't they shut off all the cameras downtown, including the one at that corner? Police said the attack happened on April 19th at about 9:50 p.m. near 3rd Avenue and Pine Street. Who would want to work at that McDonald's, man? Patrol officers responding to reports of an assault found the victim bleeding from a head injury, possibly suffering a broken arm. The Seattle Fire Department treated the man at the scene, and paramedics took him to the VA hospital for further treatment. A security guard told officers one of the suspects was still in the area, and the officers found the suspect shortly afterward and arrested him. Well, I guess since we don't have cameras, we can't prosecute him like those guys at UW, right? Right? Not enough evidence to do that? An analyst of the Seattle Police Department's Real-Time Crime Center reviewed camera Wait, what? They reviewed the camera footage? Wait, hang on. The cameras are still on. Shh. Nobody tell Katie Wilson. Don't tell Katie Wilson the cameras are still on. We might catch more criminals. She doesn't want that. 2 suspects, including the man who was arrested, struck the victim unprovoked as he walked down the sidewalk and knocked him to the ground. Police said the suspects then walked away, leaving the victim on the pavement. Police were able to use video from the RTCC to confirm the suspect they had in custody was involved. Wait, so what you're telling me is that if you have cameras, you could identify criminals and then arrest them and then prove they did something wrong, but Katie Wilson wants to turn them all off for the World Cup? Is that what it is? I was having a discussion with somebody yesterday about the cameras, and the theory floating around out there is this has nothing to do with ICE whatsoever. It's that Katie Wilson actually doesn't want to crack down on sex workers. That's one of the new theories. In fact, some people have actually floated that at some of her town halls. They're worried about the prostitutes. You do know that human trafficking goes up exponentially whenever there's one of these big events in town. And the cameras are very helpful in catching people. So here's a perfect example of it. Police said the suspects walked away, leaving the victim on the pavement, but they were able to use the camera to confirm the suspect they had in custody was the right guy. The suspect was booked into the King County Jail for felony assault. Jail records show he was released just 2 days later for assault after stabbing somebody, after giving him a concussion. Wow, awesome. Though the suspect was initially booked for felony assault based on information at the time, police say the evidence available only supports a misdemeanor charge. So you don't have enough camera angles or what? Really? This kind of sounds like to me like we're starting to have a prosecutor issue that where they just don't want to prosecute. They're gun shy. Like the radical activists who were arrested just the other day for stopping everybody from going into that fundraiser in downtown Seattle. Yeah, they were released the next day. I wonder if at this point it's the prosecutors. Police said, we were unable to get medical records from the patient, so without those signed medical release forms, we can't confirm whether or not the victim's arm was actually broken. We can only refer what we know, so if we can't confirm that was a serious injury like a fracture, we refer the charges to the city attorney's office. And we know that our new Seattle City Attorney, Erica Evans, most likely will not prosecute a crime like this. Well, speaking of our unsheltered neighbors, by the way, the texts just keep coming in. They keep coming in about where we're actually going to be. And most of them have to do with drugs. Oh, this one here from Matt Gilbert. You ready for this one, Kevin? You'll like this. You guys are going to be broadcasting from Vashon Island so you can pay your respects to the squirrel that died trying to protect the feed. That's what it is. Yes, we're going to do that. Pay our respects to the squirrel. Pour one out for our homie. That's what we're going to do.
That's a long drive. That's a long drive.
It's a ferry. It's a long drive. Can we get a KVI boat so in case we ever need to go out to the island, we can do that? I remember our last tech guy was talking with him. They have these ATVs that turn into jet skis, and I thought that might be a practical solution. Keep it on a trailer here in the garage. Head on out there if there's ever an issue. No problem. This one here. Becky in Enumclaw wants to know if we got a permit for our stunt. Well, if I told you if I had to get a permit or not, it might give away from where we're going to be. That is all I will say.
Is this like Doc in Back to the Future?
Yes.
Doc Brown, do you have a permit for this?
Of course I do. By the way, I am not sure to this day. I'm not sure if Doc Brown actually had a permit or if he's paying off the guy because he grabs his wallet.
Yeah, I don't get that either.
Right?
Because his reaction is Doc Brown looks like he doesn't have a permit. The way he says, sure I do.
Right, and then you hear him say in the background while Marty's sticking the letter in his coat pocket, you hear him say, let me see if I can just find it here as he's flipping through his wallet. Doc Brown's paying off the dude.
I think so.
I think that's exactly what's going on. Oh, here's one. Becky has other guesses. She says a closed Starbucks store. That's an interesting one. Hey, there's one right nearby at the Armory.
I was going to say we've got like 3 or 4 around here.
That's very true, by the way. There are a whole bunch of empty Starbucks stores around here. Hey, keep them coming. Oh, wait, here we go. You are going on the light rail with Downtown Joe. I think you mean Transit Joe. That's not Downtown Joe. Transit Joe. Very good, Mary. On the light rail with Transit Joe. Actually, Joe and I have been discussing our date to go on the light rail together. But here's another problem, speaking of the light rail, by the way. So the Mount Baker Transit Center, the train station, is now having problems because guess what goes hand in hand with some of these stations? The homeless problem. Now, mind you, I don't want to blame transit for that. This specific area of Mount Baker had problems with the homeless long before that train ever showed up. So now a preschool director is really upset about it because all the riffraff is causing problems for the school. Como News says the South Seattle preschool owner says safety concerns are growing again near the Mount Baker Transit Center, where illegal encampments have reemerged following a period of improvement. Gloria Hodge, who runs a Vietnamese bilingual preschool next to the I know exactly where this is. I drive past it all the time. Said recent violence, including a stabbing at a nearby encampment, has heightened fears for families and staff. A man was found bleeding at the transit station just steps from the school. I think it's Hamlin Robinson that's over there. That's the name of the school. They build this big, beautiful new building. And I said, it's a shame which location you guys picked because that's right near where all this is going on. There's no accountability, Hodge told Como News, because no one is monitoring the area. They're not checking in. The find it, fix it tickets are too delayed. She says keeping children safe are her top priority. She says, my job is to see the children have nurturing experiences here. I think I'm very open and honest during tours and letting them know what we're experiencing, but they're concerned. Oh, you think? Here's what has happened to Rainier Avenue for those of you that drive in the area. So what they did was they opened a whole bunch of hygiene stations, enclosed stores, and other homeless services. They're not homeless. They are taxpayer-funded tweakers. They are taxpayer-funded drug addicts. So if you drive down Rainier Avenue, and I do all the time when I'm coming home, and if you drive down Rainier Avenue, what will you see? Bus stops filled with the tweakers. You will see that everywhere. Now that all the stores have closed, now that some of them have burned down, and you replace them with taxpayer-funded drug areas. That's what you've done. The neighborhood is also home to a sanctioned encampment known as Tent City 3, where people experiencing homelessness can access services such as bathrooms, a kitchen, and on-site staff. How's that working out for you? Sanctioned encampments is crazy. If God forbid, Bob Ferguson had a relative who was homeless, you got to put him in a sanctioned encampment? You got to put him in a tiny home village? You got to put him in an RV park? No, we'll put him in a hotel room, first class, in one of these drug hotels where drugs are rampant, crime is rampant. Yeah, we'll just put him in one of those places, right, with all the meth addicts. That's what we'll do. The lease for Tent City 3 is set to expire next month. Plans for what happened with the site haven't been announced yet. Hopefully they won't renew this thing because it's stupid. She said, this is the teacher again, I feel like when the authorized encampments are in the area, it just draws unauthorized encampments. That just escalates from there. She's 100% right. Similar concerns have surfaced nearby in recent weeks, where a large encampment has grown in wooded areas near a tiny home village. Hey, you know where that is? It's right near the overpass. So soon we're going to have rock throwing season again. Oh, I'm so excited. Rock throwing season. Yes. Mayor Katie Wilson has pledged to open 500 new tiny homes. Oh, so you can have a tiny home village where people have their drug hut inside the tiny home village? That's going to work out great. That's going to be fantastic. The teacher said, when the unauthorized encampments come, no one's watching that. The city's not managing it. To be fair, are they managing the authorized ones too? Probably not. Where's Katie Wilson in all this, by the way? Shouldn't she be dealing with all this? Nah, she's not going to deal with the homeless. You know what she's going to do? Bus lanes. More bus lanes. That's what we need. It'll make traffic worse, so people will speed more, and you'll have more traffic deaths. Mayor Katie Wilson of the Seattle Department of Transportation released new details regarding a new bus lane proposal along one of the city's busiest corridors for one of the most frequently delayed routes. According to Como News, during Wednesday's press conference, Wilson, transit advocates, community supporters proposed a new bus lane on Denny Way in parts of South Lake Union to improve the on-time performance of the Route 8 King County Metro bus. Wow, really dealing with the big issues around here. How many people are still in South Lake Union? There are a lot of people down there because last time I was down there, it was a ghost town. I used to never take that way on Mercer to I-5 to get home, but I've noticed that recently it hasn't been so bad because less and less people are working in South Lake Union because of the policies of people like Katie Wilson. You guys made this mess. Now, there's a survey right here. Are bus lanes an effective way to move people across town faster? Yes or no? I'm going to go with no on Como News' website. And 75% of you said no also. So I see that we're really dealing with the issues that most people here in Seattle are really caring about. Really, really, really caring about. This is the kind of stuff that she spends her day doing, not dealing with the drug addicts, not dealing with the crime, not dealing with any of that. Nope, the bus lanes. Got to make sure the trains, buses, run on time. Right, my friends? Up next, lots more to discuss, including school enrollment is going down. And a lot of people are now blaming ICE. Is this a good thing or a bad thing? We'll give you all details when we come back. You're listening to The Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KBI. less kids are enrolling in schools, and some people are blaming ICE for it. Here's what the White House had to say. Under Biden, the cost of educating illegals reached $80 billion a year, a massive burden on American citizens. Thanks to President Trump's strong immigration policies, migrant school enrollment is plummeting, freeing up resources for American students and families. In Utah, educating illegal aliens costs the state taxpayers $650 million in 2023, and lawmakers were forced to deploy emergency funding to keep up with the strain on the public school system. This school year, Utah's K-12 public schools saw the largest decrease in enrollment in 25 years, which the state superintendent attributed to, in large part, slowing down migration. In Florida, educating illegals cost the state's taxpayers $4 billion in 2023. This school year, the number of foreign students entering Miami-Dade County public schools fell by more than 80%. In New York, educating illegals cost the state taxpayers more than $4.6 billion in 2023. In New York City, the 60 schools that took the largest share of migrants under Biden saw those gains nearly entirely erased in the past school year. In Colorado, educating illegals cost the state's taxpayers nearly $2 billion in 2023. In 2024, Denver Public Schools was forced to allocate an additional $1.6 billion to accommodate hundreds of late arrivals, primarily from Venezuela. This year, they saw a 70% drop in migrant students. Massachusetts, $1.6 billion. In 2025, the number of English learners enrolled in the Massachusetts public schools fell by more than 7,000 people. Washington, D.C., it cost nearly $200 million to educate illegal alien children in 2023. This year, they say, with enrollment in schools with large migrant populations and expensive English language classes, it's down by nearly 25%. California cost taxpayers nearly $20 billion in 2023 to educate illegal alien children. This school year, the Los Angeles Unified School District saw more than 20% fewer so-called newcomers, migrants, than it did in 2023. Now, you might have a different problem here. And your problem is you have these big school districts that were built on assuming there's a certain number of kids. Now, what will happen is the less kids that they have, the less federal funding they get. That's a good thing. But what's also going to happen is you're going to notice a lot less kids in these classes. Now, aside from the fact that people are yanking their kids out of public schools, still at a pretty high rate, they're opting for private school, charter school, homeschooling. They're doing all that. You look around and you say, why do we have these big empty school buildings? I remember there was an apartment building next to a place near where I grew up, and this apartment building was previously Roosevelt High School. You could see it. They still had all the stuff, it still looked like a school. They just turned it into an apartment building complex. If you want to solve the housing problem, that's a great way to go. You got buildings ready to go. They got boilers. They got everything. Just, hey, you got a gym. Use a gym. They got basketball courts. You can play basketball down there. You got all the space to turn these things into apartments. I'm not saying scrap schools entirely, but how much, because of illegal immigration, how much did we overbuild these school systems? You say there's a teacher shortage? Guess what? Problem solved. You say there's a resource problem? Guess what? Problem solved. This is something, migration, stopping illegal immigration can solve so many problems. And now I think people are regretting some of the things they did earlier in a gut check reflex action to a lot of this illegal immigrant ICE insanity. So now, here from Como News, automatic license plate reader cameras are back online in Renton after the police department paused the system to review a new state law. The Renton Police Department says it has turned on the automatic license plate readers, also known as the flock cameras, after Chief John Schultz paused the cameras in March to ensure that department policies complied with Senate Bill 6002. Police said the department evaluated the new law, updated its policies, strengthened data governance and retention protocols, reinforced accountability measures to align with current legal and community expectations. The department also said all authorized users have been trained in the new policy. Isn't that how you should do it? Okay. You don't want them using it the wrong way, then train them how to use it the right way. Quote, this technology plays a vital role in supporting our investigative process and assisting in getting positive outcomes for victims in our communities. It's essential that strict guardrails are in place to protect our community members. Our updated policy ensures the system is used responsibly, transparently, and within the confines of state law and best practices for public safety. Yeah, exactly right. I got no problem with this. The Driver Privacy Act, Senate Bill 6002, was signed into law on March 30th, creating new statewide rules for automatic license plate readers that scan and store license plate data and can allow government agencies to track where people drive and when. The ACLU of Washington said public agencies in the state have expanded their use of unregulated automated license plate readers for years by contracting with private companies such as Flock Safety and Axon, creating what it called an extensive exploitable surveillance network through the country. No, what the ACLU wants is the ACLU hasn't actually been on the side of Americans for a very, very, very long time. Instead, they're on the side of the criminals. Now, mind you, are there privacy concerns? Well, sort of. The privacy concerns are you're out in public, and what you do out in public is public domain. So I know a lot of people say all the time when this stuff comes up, who, by the way, are kind of anti these cameras, it's public domain. You go out in public, that's what can happen. Just like we're going out in public for our broadcast tomorrow from 3 to 6 p.m. You don't know where we're going to be. We're going to be somewhere in Seattle. We're going to be somewhere showcasing the failures of government. We'll be out there somewhere, but we will be live so that way you can listen to us. Before the law's passage, the ACLU said they were really, really upset about all this. And then, of course, you had the whole ICE controversy where, oh, my God, ICE is accessing the cameras. And that I never really understood, unless they're hacking the cameras. Did you give ICE a login? No, I don't think so. And then there's this story right here. Children born to illegal immigrant parents in the U.S., according to the Post-Millennial, were nearly 10% of all new births in the U.S. in 2023. So when you have birth tourism, people are going to take advantage of it to get their kids to become U.S. citizens. Yeah, that makes sense. The figures were published about data that came out during the Biden administration, which had far lax border policies. New data released by Pew Research, and they are definitely not my little black book of the right-wing media conspiracy, said that 9% of all U.S. births in 2023 were to those who were here in the U.S. illegally or in the country temporarily. The Supreme Court is currently considering the legality of an order from President Trump that would restrict birthright citizenship from some of those born to foreign nationals in the U.S. And this is an example of the problem. Come to the U.S., have a baby, they become a citizen. Is there any other country where they do something like that? Where they have something where you just get citizenship because you're born there like this? Just because your parents aren't? We had such lax border rules for so long, we created these problems. Overbuilding the schools. We have a housing supply shortage because you have a whole bunch of people that shouldn't be here in the country. We weren't growing at the rates that were projected, among other problems. Stopping illegal immigration stops a lot of these other problems too, or at least makes it a little bit better. Up next, my friends, the problems we have here with voting, we all know about. But now, finding a box of ballots in a dumpster blew open this can of worms that our elections are safe and secure. Jim Walsh joins us next to discuss. You're listening to The Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI. I am absolutely shocked that the entire mainstream media has actually picked up this story. I thought for sure they would do everything possible to hide it, to obfuscate it, to cover it up. But when a box of hundreds of ballots is found next to a dumpster in Renton, Washington, you can't really ignore that story. And now, especially that the federal government is involved in investigating it, you really can't turn a blind eye to what's going on. Joining us now on the Warrior Injury Law studio line, the man who got this box of ballots, the chair of the Washington State GOP, Representative Jim Walsh. Thank you so much for being with us today.
Good to talk to you, Ari. And yes, it's good that this story is getting some visibility. I'm normal people who don't follow politics much or law or any of these controversies have been stopping me at the store or at the gas station and saying, listen, I saw that thing about the ballots. You know, I've been worried about the voting in this state and how it works. And so I think it is punching through the noise, and people are understanding that there is not strong enough security around how we handle ballots in Washington.
Yeah, for sure there's not. I mean, let's just do a quick summary of what happened. A gentleman found this box of ballots next to a dumpster in Renton, Washington, tried to contact all the appropriate authorities. None of them responded to him, though they deny the claims that he even made those calls. He brings it to you. You go through these things, and there's ballots from multiple elections, not just the most recent one. They're all sealed, and the question now is, where did they come from? How did they get here? Who had possession of these things? And now the feds are investigating. Is that about an accurate summary of this?
Yeah, that's correct. That's right. The Good Samaritan guy doesn't really follow politics or elections that closely, was helping a friend move some stuff out of a store in a mall in Renton, and they were putting stuff in a dumpster, and there was this clean box sitting next to the dumpster, and he kind of nicked it with his leg or something, and was like, wow, that's heavy. And it was not sealed. He looked in it, and it was he recognized it as ballots. And so he did the Good Samaritan thing. He said, well, this is probably important. He put it in his vehicle, and he had it for a little while. He tried contacting King County Elections because the ballots literally say that on the outside of the envelope. And they gave him the runaround. I mean, he says he got through to somebody there on the phone, and they gave him the runaround, and they weren't sure what he should do, and they were asking him questions he didn't know the answer to. And he offered to just come bring them by, and they told him they weren't sure he could do that, and they were just giving him the runaround. So then he tried calling the state, which means the state Secretary of State's office. They're the state agency that oversees elections, and they gave him a similar runaround. He then tried calling his Congress member, and that one was kind of a stretch because Congress members wouldn't be directly involved in anything like that. They gave him the runaround. And then a friend of his who does follow politics more than he does said, well, why don't you contact Jim Walsh? He'll know what to do. And so I told the Good Samaritan, yeah, sure, bring him in. We'll have a look. I didn't know what it was. It could be nothing. So he brought the box in. We had a look at it. And sure enough, it was a little bit under 400 ballots that had apparently never been delivered to the voter. And the common theme among the ballots, Ari, was that they were ballots sent to people at a private mailbox establishment. So not a U.S. Postal Service mailbox, but a private company-run mailbox store. And it looks like they didn't deliver them either. And it's not clear because of the broken chain of custody, Ari. That's the key term to keep in mind, broken chain of custody. Over the ballots, it's not sure where the system failed, whether it was U.S. Postal Service, it might not have been. Whether it was the private mailbox company, it might have been, it might not have been. Whether it was the individual voters who refused to pick up their ballot, could be. Because of the broken chain of custody, we don't know where the system failed, but it failed. And these ballots, and yeah, they were for a number of different elections, were just obviously put in a room somewhere, or a storage room, or an office. I don't know where they were. Nobody knows. And they accumulated for a couple of years, and then somebody put them in a box and was throwing them out, but didn't even put them in the dumpster, put them on the ground next to the dumpster. That's where the Good Samaritan found them. What this is proof of is the lack of security, of tracking where ballots are at each stage in their travels from the county election officials, in this case, primarily King County elections, although a few of the hundreds were from other counties, to the voter, and then from the voter back to the election officials. We don't track ballots closely enough. It's sloppy and it's not secure. And I know that the election officials in King County and the Secretary of State's office have gotten very snarky and they're making kind of nasty comments about what happened here. But the point is, this shows the lack of security and the broken chain of custody. Now, the ballots right now are in the possession of the U.S. Postal Service Inspectors Branch. So the U.S. Postal Inspectors have the ballots.
Okay.
That's the right thing.
Yeah.
And they're investigating how this happened, and we'll get some answers from those guys. They're good.
Now, what I saw was that Julie Wise from King County Elections, in a statement she put out yesterday, she tried to blame all of this on you, as if this is your entire fault, when really it sounds like her office failed not just in how these ballots ended up over there, but also in a gentleman trying to contact them and get them to the right person.
They're doing damage control. King County Elections, Ms. Weiss, and the Secretary of State, Steve Hobbs, they're in damage control mode. This is all CYA. This is point the finger and blame somewhere else. What the Good Samaritan did, what I did, what the state Republican Party did was buy the book. We got possession of these undelivered ballots, and we contacted the U.S. Postal Inspectors. It took them a day, a couple of days, 2 days. It took them 2 days to come out and get them, but they got a lot going on. They were notified of that. We made sure that the ballots were secure. Nobody was going to steal them or get them. That's more than King County Elections or the Secretary of State does. And we got them into the hands of the U.S. Postal Inspectors, and that's the right place for them to be.
Absolutely. So have you spoken to the FBI? Have you spoken to the Postal Inspector? What are they doing right now? They are probably investigating, so do they have any information for you, any updates right now?
At the moment, no. They just got them. I know I've spoken directly with the U.S. Postal Inspectors Service. I have not spoken with the FBI directly, although the postal inspectors and the FBI are talking to each other. I know that because I was copied on one or two emails that show their correspondence. But they're working on it. They're also working, I understand, with the Renton Police Department, so they're cooperating with them too. And the local police were looking at the area approximately where these were found and trying to see if this was a pattern of, if maybe there were more ballots that might have been around there. So they're working on it. The postal inspectors said they're not sure, and again, this is because of the broken chain of custody, they're not sure they could even establish that anything illegal happened. But they're going to look at the whole process and see what happened and try to determine where the system broke down. And from that, maybe we can get some specifics about what we can do to shore up the system and make it more secure. And that's my long-term goal here. We need to do a better job of tracking where ballots are sent, whether they're received, and how they're sent back to be counted. That system needs to have tracking, just like Amazon tracks a package you order, or FedEx tracks a package that's coming your way. We've got to be able to track where ballots are in each step of the delivery process and fix this broken chain of custody.
Yeah, because this is inexcusable. And the thing that really bothers me is when you keep hearing the elected officials like Steve Hobbs, Julie Weiss, and others saying, our election system is safe and secure. Well, if it was safe and secure, something like this would not have happened, and that's why we need election integrity. Representative Jim Walsh, chair of the Washington State GOP, really appreciate your time today. Please keep us updated as this thing progresses.
Oh, I will. It's a big story, and it's good that it's getting traction. This needs to get the attention of everybody.
Yep, absolutely. And I got to say, I got to hand it to the media. They didn't ignore this one. They could have ignored it, and they didn't. So good on them for finally covering an important story. Representative Walsh, appreciate you joining us today. We got a whole lot more to discuss as the show continues. You're listening to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI. Welcome back to the Ari Hoffman Show. Just a reminder, we are giving away four tickets to the Bremerton Air Show. That's right, my friends, but this contest is only online at kvi.com. The 2026 Bremerton Air Show is taking flight July 11th through 12th at the Bremerton National Airport. The show will be a celebration of classic military aircraft and world-class aerobatic performers. Bremerton Air Show will have something for everyone of all ages. For more information about the air show, please visit bremertonairshow.com. To enter for your chance to win 4 tickets to the Bremerton Air Show, head on over to kvi.com. This story comes up at least once a year for the last 3 years. So I did a little bit more research this year. This one got sent to me. The MoPop, the Museum of Pop Culture, which was previously the Science Fiction Hall of Fame and the Experience Music Project. The big museum downtown that looks like, or is supposed to look like, Jimi Hendrix's broken guitar, which just looks like a colorful mess. Okay. Every year they advertise the camps that they are having for the summer. Let's go through some of the options, shall we? Rock in Rolling Camp. Cool. It's a music museum. Learn how to rock and roll. Lovely. Northwest Film Camp. Sure, that sounds nice. Make some movies, do some stuff there. Exploring sci-fi game development. Love it. Exploring fantasy game development. Excellent. Exploring Lego stop motion. I think they make the Lego movies on the computer graphics now. The Art of Drag Camp. Wait, what? The Art of Drag Camp? Now, it says here, step into the spotlight and let your creativity shine. In this week-long camp, local teaching artists help campers shape a drag persona, whether brand new or already in bloom, and prepared for a full showcase performance. Ages 12 to 18. Now, my issue with this is a little bit different than what you would think. My issue with this kind of stuff is usually, are taxpayer dollars being spent on this? In this case, no. I couldn't find the Museum of Pop Culture actually getting any taxpayer money, aside from stuff that museums normally get. I couldn't find anything special for this program. If a private business, a private museum, wants to do something like this, I may not agree with it, but I have more issues with the parents that would enroll the kids rather than the museum itself. And here's something else. I noticed, and I went back and looked at last year. Last year, they had lots of options for this. Lots and lots of options. It's shrinking and shrinking and shrinking. I also noticed they have more options in the other things. The film camp, the video game camp, the fantasy development camp, the Lego camp. The Art of Drag Camp is just one little thing there. So when I was looking at this, if you have an issue with the parents who are doing this to their kids, that's a different story. But then I saw something else on the MoPop's website, and it kind of explains why they offer something like this. I don't imagine there's a big demand for this, but they have up here their DEIA statement. DEIA? What is this? It's basically diversity, equity, inclusion, and accessibility at MoPop, which is all the usual kind of stuff you've seen. At the Museum of Pop Culture, we see pop culture as a living history characterized by blah, 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 blah. Our role is unique. We contend with how culture is reinterpreted, reinvented over time, blah, blah, blah. Our honor to and responsibility to disrupt and shift power dynamics that limit... What? What are we talking about here? I mean, personally, it hasn't been good since they redid the whole sci-fi component. I used to like that place a lot more. But also, it's expensive. And it's not that big of a museum. I've never felt that I got my bang for my buck there, but my kids always enjoyed it. Personally, I liked it when they had the funk ride back in the day. Kind of enjoyed that silly funk ride. All right, not great, but whatever. It's the best they had. Lots more to discuss as the show continues, including the latest going on in the Middle East and what's happening with your gas prices. You're listening to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI. Welcome to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI, your home for the politically homeless, streaming live at KVI.com and the KVI app. If you want to be part of the most dangerous show on the airwaves, call or text the Warrior Injury Law Studio line at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. Coming up this hour, Washington is closing campgrounds. Wait. Did they double our Discovery Pass rates just so that they wouldn't do something like that? The cuts around here are insane. But before we get to any of that, people are still looking at the gas pumps. And they're wondering, when are the gas prices going to come down? Now, there's something that a lot of you have asked. Ari, why can't we just produce more oil? Why can't we just ramp up U.S. American energy production? Well, number one, that takes time. And I'm not saying they're not doing it. We would love to be the world's gas station. Buy the sweetest oil there is in the world. Buy it here from the U.S. But there is also a balance to these things, which is, let's say we ramp up U.S. oil production to the absolute max. Let's say we do that, right? Drill, baby, drill. Then what happens when the demand goes away? Eventually, this is going to be solved. What's going on with Iran will be solved eventually. This isn't going to happen forever. And then what you have is you have a bunch of facilities which have employees, which have production, which have a whole bunch of other stuff, and now the customers aren't there anymore because they're on the other side of the world. So now you've got a problem where you're going to have an issue with our own domestic energy production. There is a balance to these things. Now, we had a caller during the break who was asking about some pipelines that can bypass the Hormuz Strait and help out Saudi Arabia and the UAE. Now, this according to CNBC, so just tolerate the language for a second, how they frame things. The effective closure of the Strait of Hormuz has abruptly thrust two alternate oil pipelines into the global spotlight, one in Saudi Arabia and the other in United Arab Emirates. The first is Saudi Arabia's East-West Pipeline Network, or Petroline, a roughly 750-mile system that transports crude oil across Saudi Arabia, connecting Abqaiq on the oil-rich kingdom's eastern Gulf Coast to the port of Yanbu on the Red Sea. The East-West Pipeline is estimated to have a total design capacity of 7 million barrels per day. Following recent expansions, the Saudi oil giant Aramco said earlier this week it expects the network to reach full capacity over the next few days. The second smaller pipeline is UAE's Abu Dhabi crude oil pipeline on the Habshan Fujairah oil pipeline, spanning around 248 miles from onshore oil facilities to the pipeline is estimated to handle 1.5 million barrels of oil per day, with a reported total capacity of close to 1.8 million barrels per day. Both alternate pieces of Gulf infrastructure bypass the Strait of Hormuz, a vital oil choke point, which is in block since the U.S. and Israel went after Iran on February 28th. Now, what's going on exactly with the war here? Because these pipelines will be up and running. They're not fully up and running yet. So, what's going on in the meantime? In the meantime, the U.S. has a blockade on the Strait of Hormuz. But you have these little attack boats that are coming out of nowhere from Iran that are now targeting shipping again. The Iranian Navy is at the bottom of the ocean. So now you have these little attack boats. And what we're talking about is, I don't want to say fishing boats. I don't want to say Zodiacs. They're a little bit different than those, but that's basically what they are. So we have to deal with them. And once again, it's going to come down to us. Hey, where are the Europeans? Did the Europeans say they were on the way to help? I don't see them leaving anywhere. They thought everything was safe. They thought everything was fine. And now they're not coming to the rescue. So what exactly is happening here? Well, as I discussed on Monday, you have a split between the Iranian government and the IRGC. The IRGC is still what's left over from the Ayatollah, the Iranian Revolutionary Guard. They're a terrorist organization. The government isn't much better, but the government's like, okay, enough. We'll do whatever it takes to stop this. Enough, 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 enough. Because every single day they are losing millions, if not billions of dollars in oil because it can't go anywhere. Imports, exports can't go anywhere. So you may have found the perfect choke point to cut this all off. But now what it seems like is any time the whatever's left of the government of Iran says they want to do something, along comes the IRGC and says, no, death to the infidel. President Trump wrote on Truth Social yesterday, based on the fact that the government of Iran is seriously fractured, not unexpectedly so, upon the request of Field Marshal Asim Munir and Prime Minister Shahbaz Sharif of Pakistan, We've been asked to hold our attack on the country of Iran until such time as their leaders and representatives can come up with a unified proposal. I have therefore directed our military to continue the blockade, in all other respects remain ready and able, and will therefore extend the ceasefire until such time as their proposal is submitted and discussions are concluded, one way or another, President Donald J. Trump. Now, me personally, and I know a lot of you out there in KVI land, you guys will say, finish the job. Let's just go out there and finish the job. What'd you get in exchange for this? You delayed this. You extended the ceasefire. What'd you get in response? Well, this morning, President Trump posted this. Very good news. I've just been informed that the 8 women protesters who are going to be executed tonight in Iran will no longer be killed. 4 will be released immediately. 4 will be sentenced to 1 month in prison. I very much appreciate that Iran, its leaders, respected my request as President of the United States and terminated their planned execution. Thank you for your attention to this matter, President Donald J. Trump. So what happened was President Trump, or somebody from his staff, saw a tweet from Eyal Yacobi, which was talking about these women who were going to be executed. So President Trump originally said, don't do it. Don't you do it to the Iranian leaders who will soon be in negotiations with my representatives. I would greatly appreciate the release of these women. I am sure that they will respect the fact that you did so. Please do them no harm. Would be a great start to our negotiations. Do we know for sure this is what we got? No, we don't know that. But it's a small price to pay for us not bombing the crap out of them again. Now, according to Fox News, Iran's Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, these guys have blocked President Masoud Pezeshkian's presidential appointments and erected what sources describe as a security cordon around the supreme leader, the new Khomeini, you know, the one who's dead or missing a leg or in a coma. Why are they erecting a security cordon around him? Because he's not alive, because he's in a coma and he's not the one making the decisions. So what they don't want is they don't want a secular government making decisions. They want the radical clerics making decisions. So now the IRGC effectively has assumed control over key state functions. Quote, it was always a matter of time, not if, not when, but if. Not of when, not if. Can't speak English this late in the show. The IRGC was going to step forward even more than it has in the last 3 decades, said Benem Ben Telebu, who's senior director of Iran program at the Foundation for Defense of Democracies. Yeah, you knew it was only going to be a matter of time. You have a weak government and you have a weak terrorist organization. But the weak terrorist organization can now still overpower the weak government, and it seems like that's exactly what they are doing. Exactly what they are doing. So now we're negotiating with a terrorist group? No, thank you very much. Go and finish the job. Go in, finish the job, clean out the strait, destroy the small attack boats, and this is over. Go in and finish the job. Extending the ceasefire, great. You got these ladies back. Are there any discussions? Anything else going on? No. But it seems like what's going on instead is everybody is going after Democrat Senator Chris Murphy because a lot of people are saying he's a traitor after cheering on Iran versus the U.S. Murphy wrote on X in response to a post reporting 26 ships in Iran's shadow fleet have made it past the U.S. blockade in the Gulf of Oman. He wrote, awesome. That's a sitting U.S. senator, by the way. That's what he does. He also added to his long-running criticism of President Trump's foreign policy. And this is the kind of thing where we're not even on the same page about national security, not at all. The Democrats constantly trying to undermine Trump. The Democrats constantly telling lies. Oh, Iran is winning. Iran is not winning. They are not winning this war. For them, a win is if they survive, which is why I say go in and finish the job. Now there's a whole debate about whether Iran is still coming here for the World Cup games. New reports say it may be Italy instead of Iran. You know, I was driving home yesterday, Kevin, and when I was driving home, you know the columns that have the flags painted on them? Somebody has painted over all the IRGC stuff on the Iranian flag. Now, somebody who has an office nearby, the first time we started talking about this, they actually DM me during the show and sent me, here's what it looked like on Monday, here's what it looked like on Tuesday, here's what it looked like on Wednesday. People keep defacing the Iranian flag, and somebody keeps fixing them. So you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to wait till the end of all this, and I'm going to ask the city of Seattle for a public disclosure request about how much money they spent fixing that one flag. You know why? You see them fixing any of the graffiti around here? You see them cleaning up any of the graffiti? Nope. But we got to fix that terrorist flag to make sure they're respected.
Do you think FIFA has anything to do with this? Is it part of their advertising? Like, does the city get money from FIFA to make sure that this
So
stuff?
I know that the city does get money from FIFA and the federal government, for that matter. They get money to go out and do these kind of things. I just wonder how often they're going out there and fixing the sucker when, okay, so here's an example. My wife and I spent the weekend in Bellevue. Bellevue, so clean you could eat off the ground. We were walking around on Saturday, and I'm like, wow, I remember when parts of Seattle used to be like this downtown. So we're walking around, and the transit station is right near where our hotel was. So we walk over, and that's the first time I saw a little bit of riffraff. I didn't see the cops that are normally out there. So I see Jared Neuenhouse, deputy mayor of Bellevue. I see him out at the event on Sunday night. And I said, dude, I just want to tell you, Bellevue, gorgeous. You guys are doing a great, great job. I saw one thing of graffiti. And he goes, where? And I said, well, it's right on the transit center. He goes, no. Where is it? I'll take care of it. And I go, it's right on the door of the there's a door to a utility closet or something. It's right there. He goes, we'll get it taken care of, no problem. I'm like, you can never in Seattle, never. They take pride in the city. He's like, we'll get that cleaned up right away. And I said, well, I did see a couple of riffraff too. He goes, well, where were the transit cops? I go, I didn't see them. I go, maybe you have to adjust the schedule. Maybe they don't work on Saturdays and Sundays, and maybe they only work during the week or something. And he goes, oh yeah, we'll take care of that. No problem. Can you imagine that kind of responsiveness out of somebody in Seattle? That ain't going to happen here at all. So how much money is Seattle spending of the FIFA money that should be going towards the FIFA fun, and instead they're spending it on this craziness? That'd be the easiest way to deal with this, right? Let's start cleaning up the city for real, not just pushing homeless encampments everywhere. Oh, by the way, everything's being shoved into Georgetown. I drove by last night. Everything's just being pushed over there. I was talking about this earlier this week. It's just RV, RV, RV. You just got to know where you're looking for them. We go to the Warrior Injury Law studio line, take a call from George in Kenmore. George, what's going on?
Hey, Ari. Yeah, don't they have the Iran team playing here for FIFA, and they got some woke protest going on?
Well, so here's what's going on. George, let me clarify for everybody. Iran is playing Egypt in one of the matches here in Seattle for the World Cup. The match the two of them are playing in is during Pride Month, and they are having a whole Pride-themed event at that World Cup match. That's what's scheduled right now.
So, on your other point, I was in Iran or in the Persian Gulf in '88, tanker wars, and I was a geological engineer, and I lived in Saudi Arabia. Mm-hmm. So that pipeline to Yanbu has been there. That was a contingency from what happened before.
In the 70s, yeah.
Or in the 80s,
yeah.
88, the tanker wars, Operation Earnest Will and Praying Mantis.
Yep.
America's shortest war, Navy and some Army Delta. That was it. And we sunk their Navy then, but they beached all their ships, so they repaired them. And they're all from 1959 anyway. But they are Swedish dual Volvo bog hammers that are those small boats. And guess what? The IRGC drives them. And so, you're just shrinking the IRGC every one we blow up.
So what do we do? Send in the Warthogs? Dave here on the Warrior Injury Law studio line says, send in the Warthogs. Is that our answer? Is that what we do?
Well, no. You saw what a Navy 5-inch gun, it's radar guided and semi-automatic.
Yeah.
And 5 inches is a lot more than 30 millimeter.
Yeah. So you want to do that instead?
5-inch gun's amazing. That's why there's only one gun on a Navy ship. You ever think of that?
Yeah, exactly, because you don't need any more after that one. George, appreciate the historical perspective. Appreciate the call. You want to be part of the show, you give us a call or a text at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. Larry says over on the text line, the job is half done. Complete your mission and finish the job. This one here, also another one, says, I agree, go finish the job. And that's what a lot of people are saying right now. The longer this drags out, the longer the gas prices are higher and the more popular support you lose. And if this goes into the summer, oh, man, GOP is going to have real problems come the election time This has got to be over now, but I'm not saying give up the fight. Joe Kent the other day was talking about, yes, now's a good time to pull out and be done with it. Yes, let's repeat what happened in the 1980s. Let's do that again, Joe Kent. Thank God you're not part of the administration anymore, because then, under your leadership, things would have only gotten worse. This is what he's just going to be, a talking head. How come we haven't heard the podcast announcement yet? What a disappointment Joe Kent has been in all of this. What does this have to do with any of us locally here at home? Yesterday, the guest we had in the studio, Noah Kochba, who is former Miss Israel and an IDF combat medic, she was speaking in Seattle. She was supposed to speak at the University of Washington. She didn't go to the University of Washington. She went to a few other places instead, but the protesters still showed up there for her. And they were waving Hezbollah flags, and they were waving Hamas flags. No, not Palestinian flags. Hezbollah, Hamas, IRGC, all those flags locally. Last night, there was an event where they were raising money for the Palestinian resistance in Lebanon. Who's the resistance in Lebanon? Oh, that's Hezbollah. That's who they are. That is Hezbollah. So they're having this event to give material support, those are their words, not mine, to the Lebanese resistance. So you're giving material support to a terrorist organization. Well, they had this guy on stage who was speaking before the film. Here's what he said.
I'm Lebanese. I'm Palestinian. I grew up in Palestine, hearing about Lebanon and how they're fighting against the Israelis. And after the flood, I saw that in my own eyes. I saw how these people sharing the battle with us as a Palestinian.
Okay, hang on a second. Here's some things people don't know. When Jordan kicked out their Palestinian population, they went to Lebanon. They destroyed a mostly Christian country, took it over, and it was the Palestinians that did that. That's where Hezbollah comes from. What he just said is, I saw the flood. He's referencing Al-Aqsa flood. That is the name that Hamas gave to October 7th. That is the name they gave to the massacre of over 1,200 people, the kidnapping, the rapes, the tortures, you name it. That's the name they give to it. This guy is saying he was inspired by it, and an event in the Central District here in Seattle where they are raising money for Hezbollah. When are we going to see the U.S. government do something about all these terrorist organizations? I know they made a big deal about, they're going to declare Antifa a terrorist organization, do something about it. We have actual terrorist organizations here in town, fundraising for terrorist organizations. When is somebody going to do something about that? Because as we say all the time, what happens here matters a lot more than what happens in Washington, D.C., or Iran for that matter. This is happening right here, right now. This happened last night. This happened at the University of Washington. And I know everybody's all excited because Harmeet Dillon said that they're going to investigate University of Washington for anti-Semitism. Lovely, wonderful, fantastic. I would rather they go after Sami Dune, the group that is a U.S.-designated sham charity that is at the University of Washington all the time. I would rather they go after Super UW. I want federal charges on the guys who caused over $1 million worth of damage to the engineering building. I want to know where they're getting their resources from. I want to know where they're getting their money from. I want the U.S. government to go after that. I think what I'll do is I'll actually reach out to the FBI and reach out to the new U.S. District Attorney who's out here, the U.S. Attorney who's out here in Washington, see if we can get him on the show to answer a few of these questions, because this kind of stuff is really ticking me off now. What is the holdup in prosecuting these guys? They have made their intentions very, 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 very clear. Just like the Democrats here in Washington state, who have made their intentions to cut as many services as possible as they can here in Washington. So that way you say, well, I guess we need more taxes. Just watch. I'll lay out their whole game plan for you when we come back. You're listening to The Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KBI. Welcome back to the Ari Hoffman Show. Couple of public service announcements for you. Number one, tomorrow we will be broadcasting from a surprise location somewhere in the greater Seattle area that will bring attention to what has befallen our fair city and state due to Democrat policies. We will be live from 3 to 6 p.m., but we will have a pop-up broadcast. So you make sure you are listening at 3 p.m. as always, so that way you can find out where we are broadcasting from. We have security coming. It's going to be exciting. It's going to be a fun day. Me and Zach are going to be out in the field. But it's a surprise location because we've had issues with some of our friends on the, shall we, not other side of the aisle. I wouldn't call them Democrats. I think they're flat-up terrorists. So to be on the safe side, they won't know where we are until we're there. Yes, we will be very, very sneaky about it. Feel free to send me your guesses. One person guessed, are you going to be at the top of the Space Needle? No, I am not going to be at the top of the Space Needle. Though I will tell you, years and years ago when I was running the youth program, we used to do a limo scavenger hunt. And what you had to do is get all the items for your scavenger hunt, for your limo, group of kids in each limo, without paying for any of them and without stealing any of them. So one of the things I put in every single year was get a picture at the top of the Space Needle without paying to get up there and without sneaking in. That was always a challenge I did every single year. So every single year, my limo was able to do it. And we would always come back because that was the one that was worth the most amount of points. And every year, you know how we did it? I would just go up to one of the employees at the Space Needle and I would say, hi, I got this youth group. I got these kids here with this youth group and we're trying to win a scavenger hunt. Do you have any of your employee tickets that you still aren't using this month or anything like that? Sure, no problem. Here you go. Boom. Get a whole limo to the top of the Space Needle. Up, down, done. It was that quick. That's right. That's why my team won every year, because we were awesome. Okay, we didn't win every year, but we did get that one challenge every single year, so that was good stuff. But yeah, send your guesses about where you think we are going to be. This one here. Jeff and Ken says you're going to broadcast from University of Washington's Red Square, the Northwest University of Hamas. That's very, very good. Very, very good. This one here from Becky. I'm just glad the FBI is getting involved with the University of Washington and the finding of the ballots. It's a start. I don't know why Washington State has skated out so much. Maybe it's too much. They don't want to deal with it. I wish they would. No, it's intentional. It's by design. It's by design. That's what they really want it to be. Switching gears over to here in Washington, here's something by design. Washington State is going to be closing multiple campgrounds and / recreation services, and they are going to blame it on the budget crisis. Wait a second. Didn't you guys double your Discovery Pass fees last year, claiming you needed it to keep all these campgrounds open? Well, let's be real. I've seen the state of some of your campgrounds. I can't tell if they're open right now how poorly you take care of them. Why do you think they're doing this right before the summer? Right before the spring, right before the summer. Why do you think they're doing this? To punish you, the taxpayer, as much as they can. So that way next year, Bob Ferguson can rattle off a list of all the things they had to cut and all the things they had to close. And the crunchy granola people who shop at REI for everything in their wardrobe will say, they closed the parks. Oh my God, they closed the parks. Why haven't you cut transgender surgeries for convicted felons? Why haven't you cut laser hair removal for convicted felons? Why haven't you cut self-service stations for men out of your arts budget? Why haven't you cut the fraud? Why aren't you investigating the fraud? No. All you do is you keep these people in basically subservience by keeping them in the lowest income on welfare and assume they'll vote for you that way. And then you keep your other buddies rich with looking the other way on the fraud. And who's paying the price for it? Us. You and me. Washington's Department of Natural Resources is closing multiple campgrounds and scaling back recreation services statewide, claiming it's because of another round of budget cuts. It is not because they added $2 billion in spending this year. They added $2 billion in spending, and it's not a cost of living adjustment. It's not because of Trump. They added the $2 billion in spending because they wanted to add $2 billion worth of spending. So now they're saying, oh, we just don't want to do it. Here's Commissioner of Public Lands Dave Upthegrove Craziest last name ever. We don't want to be reducing recreation services, but the legislative budget cuts, specifically to recreation maintenance, have forced those decisions. Yeah, so sad. The final budget came in less severe than earlier proposals, so we're able to avoid some closures now. But even so, these cuts will move us in the wrong direction. You are so full of it. You are so full of it. This is all part of the Democrats and Turd Ferguson's plan. You guys are completely full of it. Absolutely full of it. Meanwhile, there's this story here speaking about the great outdoors. Como News is reporting Washington's wolf population grew by 17.4%, with the number of successful breeding pairs rising 27%. We're breeding wolves now? This is what we're doing. We're intentionally breeding wolves. What was it? We had a mouse problem, then we brought in cats, then we had a cat problem, now we bring in dogs. After dogs, we bring in wolves. Soon it'll be velociraptors. We'll just gear those up, send them out to deal with the problem. The report said the state had 270 wolves in 49 packs by the end of 2025, including 23 successful breeding pairs. That compares with 230 wolves in 43 packs and 18 breeding pairs at the end of 2024. It's encouraging that Washington's wolf population and number of breeding pairs increased this year, especially considering 2024's discouraging decline, said Armok Weiss, a senior wolf advocate. I can't help but think of Pluie. Pluie the wolf? I can't help but think about that. We're going to build roads for Pluie the wolf, like in the West Wing, right? We're going to have roads for the wolf. We'll have the wolf. He's going to take most priority. That's what it's going to be, right? Pluie the wolf. I mean, come on, guys. This is ridiculous. We're now breeding predators. Breeding predators. That's what we're doing. Anybody here think this is a good idea to just keep breeding more predators? Look, if you think it's important for the ecosystem or something, let me know. Maybe you can set me straight on this one. I don't think it's important for the ecosystem. But you know what is important for our ecosystem? When we come back, Todd Myers from the Washington Policy Center is going to tell us what you can do for Earth Day this year. Expose more government fraud that they claim is to save the climate. We'll tell you about the latest stuff the Washington Policy Center discovered and how it ties to the Somalian community when we come back. You're listening to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI. Well, my friends, I almost forgot that today was Earth Day. What better day to compost your spouse? I'm sorry, that was what the guy who invented this thing did. No, we should be good stewards of the environment. And something that I say all the time is that why is the left taken over this narrative that they're the only ones who care about the environment? Conservatives are the ones who actually go camping and actually go out in the wilderness and want those animals to be healthy so we can shoot them later. No, what we really want is we want a great environment. We love our world. We want to take care of it. And what ticks me off the most is how Democrats consistently say they're going to take care of the environment and do the exact opposite, or just use it as an excuse to tax us to death. Joining us now to discuss, Vice President of Research for the Washington Policy Center, the one and only Todd Myers. How you doing today, buddy?
Very good. And I think the point that you just hit on there is the key, which is that I think a lot of conservatives and people on the center right care about the environment, are good stewards of the environment every day, but they're afraid to say so because environmentalism seems, at least political environmentalism, seems like a Trojan horse for socialism and other bad policies. And we need to change that. And we can change that because our ideas are better, but we just need to make sure that we, in our own minds, don't conflate environmentalism with socialism.
Yep, completely agree. So speaking of the slush funds, all this money was supposed to go to clean air around here. The Washington Policy Center has a great new study out talking about where this money actually went. Where did it actually go?
Yeah, so one of the big arguments that was made to justify the CO2 tax and the billions of dollars is that they will spend money on improving air quality, reducing pollution in what they call overburdened communities. And that was actually written into the law. $20 million was guaranteed to do this. So I wondered where the money went. And so I looked at the grants that they provided last year, 21 grants in various communities. And what I found was that of those 21, only one actually meaningful reduced what's called particulate matter, and at a cost-effective way. The others were either efforts that made some sense but completely fell short, or pure waste. And my favorite examples are that a lot of money was spent on community outreach, just to see what people felt about air pollution, not actually to do anything about air pollution. And it went to groups like the Somali Independent Business Association and the Urban League of Seattle. And they didn't do anything other than apparently talk to people about how they felt about air pollution. Well, that does nothing to actually address what can be real problems of air pollution. So it's another example of how the rhetoric of, well, we must do this because people are dying and there's asthma. And then when push comes to shove and they actually run the program, it doesn't do the things that they promised.
Yeah, and of course it ends up in the exact same places where we've seen other allegations of, shall we just say, problematic finances going there. Okay, so this thing didn't do that. And just for a comparison, we shut down the entire world in 2020. Barely anybody was driving. People weren't working. People were staying in their houses. What effect did that have on air quality or anything else for that matter?
Well, and especially in the Pacific Northwest, because of days like today, where it is, kind of windy and rainy, we don't really have air quality problems. We have very clean air. And so when we had COVID and everything was shut down, I started looking at air quality data from around the country to see if, there was a significant increase in reduction in air pollution, I should say. And what I found is that we had almost no reduction in air pollution, not just in Seattle, but lots of other places. Now, there were places like New York City where there's lots of traffic and lots of cars where you did see a marginal improvement in air quality. But by and large, there wasn't a huge increase. Now, if shutting down the whole world doesn't, improve air quality, what it means is there's just not a lot to be done overall in terms of improving air quality.
Gotcha.
Now, that's not the case in some local areas. And so the project I mentioned that did actually do well in Spokane, what they did is they paved a dirt road. So the dirt road was throwing up a lot of dust. Dust is particulate matter. That can be bad. What we find is that those sorts of things don't cause asthma, but they can exacerbate asthma. So that project, if you look at the numbers, it actually makes sense. But it was the only one that even attempted to estimate, here's how many tons of particulate matter we're going to avoid. And the other interesting thing is that every grant, there was a checkbox to say, will you be monitoring air quality? And not a single one of them said that they would be monitoring. In other words, none of them are actually going to monitor results. So it just shows you how the slipshod this whole program is. And again, what's so remarkable about that is that the rhetoric that justifies it is like literally people are dying. We have an asthma crisis. And yet when they spend money to address that crisis, it goes to community outreach.
Yeah. And I know that, for example, people here in Georgetown, in Seattle, they get really mad about the factories, and actually you can see that there are air quality issues there that are different than the rest of Seattle. And there are practical things that could be addressed, but they're not actually addressing any of that. They're spending on these massive slush funds. Todd, you wrote the book Time to Think Small. You talk about what people can actually do to help the environment. It's Earth Day. If people want to do some small little things to actually change the way they do their lives, what's something small, easy, little that people could do?
Yeah, I think the first thing is that people need to stop outsourcing the environment to government. The argument is that, only government has the capacity to do the things that need to be done. And that's wrong on two counts. First, it's wrong because government is failing, right? As we've just talked about, as we've talked about many times, government is not doing the things, even if they have the capacity, that's not what they're doing. They're choosing, sort of political slush funds, not effective results. But the second thing is that, and I outline in this in my book, thanks to technology, we now can do more for the environment more effectively than government programs. One example that I give is that Seattle City Light and Puget Sound Energy both have programs where if you reduce your energy use during peak hours, which is in the evening, they will pay you. That is great. It's a price signal. It's a free market signal because you're paying very high rates for electricity that you use during those hours. Previously, though, you just couldn't see it. Now, thanks to technology, you can see it, and you can actually get rewarded for saving energy when it is most expensive. So that's just one example of something that people in the Puget Sound region can do literally right now. Talk to Puget Sound Energy, talk to Seattle City Light, and get paid for using electricity when it's cheap, not when it's most expensive.
Todd Myers, Vice President of Research for the Washington Policy Center. This is why we love having you on, because I really want to take this issue back from the left. They use it as a Trojan horse to try and get their policies across. We actually care about the environment. Really appreciate you joining us today, my man.
Happy Earth Day.
You as well, sir. Only good news to wrap up the show. Good news headlines. Put a smile on your face heading into your evening commute. You're listening to The Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI. Only good news to wrap up another amazing episode of the Ari Hoffman Show right here on Talk Radio 570 KVI. And before we get to our good news, just a couple of quick programming notes. Number one, tomorrow we will be broadcasting from a special pop-up location somewhere in the greater Seattle area to illustrate the failure of Washington Democrats' policies. We will be live from 3 to 6 p.m. We will be doing the show, but we'll be at a special location. Me and Zach will be out in the field. Kevin will be back here running the store. It'll be exciting. I hope the weather's nice.
Oh, no.
Oh, you're coming with us?
I will be down there with you.
You are coming with us. All right. So Kevin's coming with us. It'll be the three of us out there in the field, in the trenches. Who knows? Maybe some protesters will show up. Who knows? Maybe some people with megaphones will show up. Who knows? Maybe some homeless people will try to stab us. I don't know. Anything could happen.
I love that you're just throwing these ideas out there to the masses. Like, here's some great ideas.
Yes. Send an entire homeless cabin after Hoffman and his friends. Let's do that. Anywho, it'll be fun. It'll be exciting. Make sure you're listening from 3 to 6 p.m. You guys have had some good guesses today. I'm not going to tell you whether you were right or wrong, but you have had some good guesses today. Also, just a reminder, we're having the contest for the 4-pack of tickets to the Bremerton Air Show. You can enter to win only at KVI.com. The 2026 Bremerton Air Show is taking flight July 11th through 12th at Bremerton National Airport. The show will be a celebration of classic military aircraft, world-class aerobatic performers. Performers include an F-86 Sabre, a P-40 Kitty Hawk, an F-6F Hellcat, and so much more. There will also be a PBY Catalina. There's something for everybody of all ages. For more information about the air show, please visit bremertonairshow.com. And for your chance to win, please head on over to KVI.com. It was really nice at the fair last week when somebody came up to me and goes, Ari, I'm the one who won the tickets through the website and came to see you at the fair, just like you said would happen. So you want to see us out at the Bremerton Air Show, you can do the exact same thing. Head on over to KVI.com right now. Okay, I promised Kevin I would dial back the Mets stuff, but this one's too ridiculous. I had to play this one. This actually aired on national television yesterday. This aired before the game, where the Mets dropped 12th in a row. This actually aired. They started doing a seance outside of Citi Field. They actually did this.
Are we just going to call this good news segment your last Mets update of the day?
We're going to do that until the streak's over.
Do?
Oh, they're losing right now, by the way.
Good.
Good. I'm on the same page as you. So he's surrounded by some Mets fans, and he's holding burning sage outside of the stadium.
Yes, Gary, we are out here trying to change the vibes. We thought about calling up Grimace, but he was unavailable today. So instead, we went the Pedro Serrano route in the movie Major League, and we are having some ritual cleansing. It's going to start with this garlic necklace that I'm wearing to get all the demons away from us here at Citi Field. And then, of course, classically, burning of sage, which is to expel all the negative energy surrounding the 11-game losing streak. See, I'm already thinking positive with the winning streak. 140 games to go. The season starts now. These Mets fans are out here.
We still got time.
Still got time. Everybody, ritualistically, we are going to cleanse the area starting now on the count of 3. 1, 2, 3.
As he's waving the sage around. This is a new level of ridiculous. And this is happening on national TV.
I'm feeling the positive vibes. We're off to a great start. Let's send it back to you guys in the booth.
Well, we'll try to do our part, Steve. We've got the horseshoes with the open end up. That's supposed to be a barrier against evil forces, right?
We got the candles, of course. Rico Cardi.
Okay, so then it pans over to the studio, and they're surrounded by candles and horseshoes. This is what we're doing now. It's so bad. Yeah, they lost. And they're tied now after blowing the lead again. Yay, Mets. Okay, let's give you some actual good news. This is one from Fox News. A family of 3 was found after spending nearly a week stranded at sea. The group was located Monday by the U.S. Coast Guard in the Pacific Ocean after their trip was reportedly overdue. Family members, 2 men and 1 woman, departed from Fananu Island in the state of Chuuk and part of the Federated States of Micronesia in the western Pacific Ocean on March 30th for nearby Murillo Island. They never arrived and their single outboard engine stopped working. According to authorities, they reported the vessel missing on April 5th and started a search effort. Later that night, the crew of the U.S. Coast Guard cutter Midget, well, that's not very progressive, naming the thing that, spotted the family's 23-foot skiff in the waters off the Chuck State.
Didn't Zach used to race those midgets?
Yes, I believe.
Right? Like
I
once
believe
or twice?
Yeah. The cars. Yes. Rescue crews faced difficult conditions during the operation. Waves reached up to 10 feet, and the search area spanned more than 14,000 square nautical miles. Ultimately, all 3 individuals were rescued and uninjured. The family was then transported back to their homes. Officials praised the crew's response, noting the search and rescue missions of this scale are not routine. Our Bridge Watch standers spotted the small skiff in rough seas just after midnight, and that kind of situational awareness does not happen by accident, said Captain Brian Whistler, commanding officer of the Midget. It is what this crew trains for. I cannot be any prouder of how they performed. Also, they were getting some love from the U.S. ambassador. Our U.S. Coast Guard colleagues' swift and courageous actions in the successful search and rescue mission not only reflect the highest standards of professionalism and humanity, but also reinforce the deep and enduring partnership between the United States and the Federated States of Micronesia. The search also involved coordination with multiple Coast Guard units. This is really incredible. They managed to find them out in the Pacific Ocean. That's going to do it for us today, but where will you find us in Seattle tomorrow? You'll have to tune in at 3 p.m. to find out. You've been listening to The Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570.